Too late. Gropa's finger jabbed the attack button. A dozen frenzied vampires fell upon Pansy immediately. They held her pinned to the ground, their saliva dripping onto her head and clothes. "Tell them to let me go," Pansy shrieked. But the more she struggled, the more the vampires snapped and bared their fangs. "One bite and you are mine," Gropa reported, enjoying Pansy's terror. "Stop," screamed Corporal. "The girl has done nothing wrong. I am the one you want." And with that, Corporal threw himself forward. He picked up one of the vampires and hurled the howling creature at the gas pipe. The pipe broke away from the wall. Gas fumes spurted into the chamber. Gropa's face was torn with rage. "You fool! Look what you have done!" He was distracted for only a fraction of a second, but it was the chance I had been waiting for. I dived to the remote control. My fingers closed around it, clawing for the subdue button. "You will die for this," Gropa swore as he clung to the control. Topaz was by my side. She kicked out wildly, striking Gropa on the knee. Again and again she kicked at the fuming, frenzied professor. Howling in pain, he released his grip on the control and clutched his knee with both hands. I pressed the subdue button firmly. The vampires fell back. Gas was spewing into the dungeon. I could feel nausea rising within me. My brain was growing dizzy. My sight was beginning to blur. "Give me the control," ordered Gropa. "No way," I shouted back, tightening my grip on the silver button. "You will never use this again," I promised the professor. With the last of my strength, I hurled the remote control as far as I could. It struck the wall beside the ruptured gas pipe. The impact split the remote control in two. Sparks burst from its wiring, igniting the leaking gas. A jet of flame speared from the wall, licked across the wooden floor, blazed across the ceiling. The dungeon was alight. The professor's scream rose above the crackling of burning timbers, the whoosh of burning gas. Corporal scooped up Pansy from the floor. "Go," he commanded her. "Take your friends and go." "We will not leave without you," Topaz pleaded. "You must. Besides, I have work to do here." We raced for the door. I turned back at once, in time to see Corporal rounding up howling vampires, trying to lead them to safety. Of the professor there was no sign. We retraced our steps along the corridor, chased by billowing smoke. The dense smoke and the dark red walls made it almost impossible to find our bearings. "The stairs were along here somewhere," Pansy groaned, pushing her way through the smoke. "Keep going," I urged. "Right to the end," Topaz added, a hand clamped over her mouth and nose. Pansy stumbled on, coughing. "I hope you are right." Flames started from the dungeon inferno and pursued us. "Faster," I shrieked. Pansy groped her way through the smoke. Suddenly she let out a cheer. "The stairs!" A moment later we were scaling the stairs. We burst out of the stairwell and found the floor above well alight. "Where's the front door?" demanded Topaz. "This way," I called. A white uniform shape blocked our path. "Silvio." He must have had a spare key and used it to escape from the laboratory. His brown-covered face was streaked with ash, his eyes bulging with fear. What have you done with the professor? He is down in the dungeon, I replied, choking on thick smoke. This is all your fault, Silvio accused me. No, Silvio, it is all your fault. Professor Dropa stepped through the smoke and seized his assistant by the neck. I told you there was another way in and out of the dungeon, didn't I? He called over his shoulder to us. Now you will all die. His eyes blazed at Silvio's gruesome face. His knuckles whitened as he gripped his assistant's throat and began shaking him. Silvio, your carelessness is to blame for all that has happened. You let Corporal and these kids ruin all my plans. No, Professor, they tricked me. Mercy, Professor, Silvio pleaded. Flames erupted from the stairwell. Silvio desperately clawed at the professor's hand. We've got to go, Topaz whispered desperately. Dropa and Silvio were locked in struggle. We ignored them and bolted for the front door. I flung open the door. We staggered out into the street, followed by clouds of dense, acrid smoke. Where is Corporal? Topaz asked in a trembling voice. I do not want him to die in the fire. If it wasn't for him, we'd be vampires by now. I gazed at the professor's building. Flames danced in every window. A pillar of smoke rose from its roof. I gripped my friend's hand. Topaz, I am sure Corporal and the vampire won't die in the fire. I mean, how can they? They are already dead. Sirens wailed their way closer. I think we'd better go, Pansy suggested, before anyone asks us what happened here. That night, the mysterious fire was the big story on the TV news. It was caused by a gas leak, the reporter said. Luckily, he said the building was abandoned, awaiting demolition, and no bodies were found inside. With my nails digging into the arms of my chair, I watched the footage of the blaze. When the walls caved in, I let out a loud cry of relief. My parents stared at me curiously. Gabriel, that is why you should never go into old buildings, Mom told me. Some of them are not very safe. Yes, Mom, I mumbled. The next weekend, Topaz, Pansy, and I decided to return to Old Grey Streets. Where number 44 had stood was a hole in the ground, full of burnt bricks and charred timbers. Red and white tape surrounded the red pit. A huge sign read, Danger, keep out. What do you think happened after we escaped? Pansy wondered out loud. Topaz shrugged. I do not know, but there is no trace left of Professor's laboratory or anything. Do you think Corporal destroyed Dropa and Silvio? Pansy speculated. Or did they kill each other? And what about the Professor's vampire army? Topaz asked. I turned on my heel. I hope they all went back to Romania. We never learned the answers to all our questions. But as we left that morbid street, I caught a glimpse of a fire-blackened skull at the gutter. The ancient skull had once sat at the professor's desk. I didn't tell my friends. I just kept walking.